All right, how we doing? While the upload is going on, let me holla at my lions. How we doing? Previously on Kimba TV. 3, 2, 1, here we go! Get nasty, Bugatti money! Here we go, here we go, here we go, get nasty, ho! Oh, swiggity swaggity, get nasty! Oh, that's what I'm talking about! Let's get nasty! Yes, sir! Yes, sir! Bugatti! Math, here we go, ladies! Alright, super shitty scenario, but I this wouldn't be too crazy. Oh wow. Should we bring back some single prints? I gotta run to the Louis store today. Take a look at what my schedule is today, y'all. Garibaldi says, what's your current view on Fed cuts, Powell? The same thing that all we've been doing is just reading like what Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, all of the big banks are saying. So pretty much the same as what they're saying, I guess, Garibaldi. It's like, remember in January or December last year, we were like, oh, wow. Goldman Sachs, they're looking for 5,100 on S&P, and it went to 5,100. And then in February, their outlook was for 5,200. And then in March, they changed their outlook to, it's probably going to be bullish until June. So really, ever since December, we've been keeping track of what the bank's outlooks have been, right? So all eyes on June FOMC, right? It's been the same for the last couple weeks. Swabit says there's nothing to do for me until 63.5 or 67. You're correct, yeah. Levels haven't really changed, so. Garibaldi says only 3 major banks see June cut now. Others say September or even December. So what's the next thing that you would have to do, Garibaldi? The ones that are saying that, have they been historically right, yes or no? So again, it's just like if you were to see a bull div, right? If a bank, if a couple of banks are saying this and a couple of banks are saying another thing, which ones are right? That's what you want to do, right? So if you do that, then I think you're going to have an extra little edge. Exo says you'll be here in 4 hours. No, I will be here in about 6 because I'm leaving in 2. Nothing wrong with Deutsche Bank, but if it was between Goldman Sachs and Deutsche Bank, I'm probably going with Goldman Sachs. Give a comment on ETH. Well, have you been able to follow along the last couple days? If you're somebody that pops in and out, or you don't watch the highlights, it's going to be really hard to follow along, especially when it's like DOT or ETH. But what have we been talking about with ETH? I feel like if you're asking me about ETH, you missed yesterday's highlights and stream. Do you remember what we've been talking about with ETH? Structurally, it's got to get bullish for me because it looks like ass. Remember when yesterday we said ETH looks like ass? Do you remember when I said if ETH BTC doesn't look good, .BTC probably isn't going to look good? Yeah, so ETH BTC looks like shit. And until ETH BTC actually looks bullish, I don't think there's an opportunity for us to long ETH. Okay, when ETH BTC is bullish, it doesn't mean that ETH USDT is bullish. It means that if Bitcoin is pumping, ETH will pump harder. If Bitcoin is dumping, ETH will dump less. Right now, ETH BTC looks bearish. Okay, therefore, if BTC pumps, ETH won't pump as hard. If BTC dumps, ETH will dump harder. So I guess the only thing that I would really see is maybe like a potential short. Maybe instead of shorting Bitcoin at 67.4, you're thinking about shorting ETH. Again, this is all things, all I'm doing is repeating what we said yesterday. Okay, you could have known all of that almost 14 hours ago. Alrighty, so just make sure that you're caught up, Apache, but you're a good 2 days behind maybe. Alrighty, so unless you feel like ETH BTC daily is going to start to look bullish, I'm not interested in longing ETH. Maybe ETH BTC is going to give us a short opportunity for ETH, but I'm not going to short ETH, so. Alrighty, Apache. Yeah, but ETH BTC looks pretty bad, right? Unfortunately. And then .BTC is kind of like in the same thing. Do you remember what I said about DOT? I need that daily level to get broken and turned into support. Until then, you know, I'm going to wait a couple of days to see what it going to do. It's pixel fucking though, remember? So I've got a lot of time. I can either wait for it to break that. I can wait for it to break that. But ETH BTC needs to look a little bit better. Sounds good? Nothing has really changed too much. Any other questions? .BTC looks much better than ETH BTC. There's two ways to look at it. It looks better because it can't look any worse. Some people are going to take that as a bearish thing, and some people will, you know, is the glass half full or half empty? You know, BTC might look better than ETH BTC, but it's really because it can't look any worse. So I don't know if that's a truly bullish thing or, you know what I mean? Yeah, but I dig it. I dig it. Yeah, but BTC can't look any worse because it's shitting itself below the Genesis line. So that's when DOT came out, and it's, you know, below that, so it can't look any worse, to be honest. It'll be interesting if we get a swing failure pattern though on the Genesis ratio. So I'm not going to rush into it. Vanquisher says, Kim Basari, I just joined. Can we consider this a failed auction of the previous day value? As long as Vanquisher, you have nerded out on all the mathematical requirements you need for a failed auction. Have you nerded out on failed auction, Vanquisher? And you know what the by the book definition is, Vanquisher? If you haven't yet, make sure you do. And I'll give you a little bit of a hint. A failed auction is only confirmed when the level is lost, when it confirms the failure of the auction. So I always remind people, it's the things that you don't know that will fuck you up. All right, so make sure that you nerd out. Yeah, definitely nerd out, but you need that. Whatever your level is that you're trying to auction, it has to fail. That's why it's called a failed auction. Okay, so this is whatever level it is, okay, whether it's this or a little bit higher, it tries to auction off higher and it fails. So it fails when it fails that level, when it tries to auction and sell above that level. So it's only a failed auction if it actually fails. How can it be a failed auction if it doesn't fail? Does that make sense? So it has to fail the level. Zipper says, we single print hunting. Yes, sir. Let me switch over to the 30-minute for you guys so it's a little bit more accurate. Nothing has changed since yesterday. My TA is a little bit more higher time frame. So what happened, unless it breaks some crazy levels or something like that, I don't have to do TA like every 4 hours. I can refresh and look at the levels, but Goes BTC says, I watched the highlights, but I have a question about the short hedge. Did you going to wait till 67? Yes, Goes BTC. Me, I don't know. So like Goes BTC, let me pause the music. Everybody has a subconscious bias. Okay, Goes BTC. It's not just about watching the highlights from yesterday. Have you been following along with me for the last couple of days and last couple weeks? I got into a long from here, right, Ghost? And then while this was pumping, even before it pulled back, I drew a fib from here to here, and I said, do not cry to me if it does a golden pocket pullback. Okay, so even when it came all the way down here, I wasn't bearish. Okay, so I have a very bullish bias. I don't know if you have the same bias as I do, Goes BTC, and there is no right or wrong. So since I have a stronger bullish bias, what did I say for the last 3 days? If that short opportunity doesn't present itself, then I'm going to wait until those bad highs are swept. I don't really care if it does a failed auction or not because of my subconscious bias. Okay? Now, somebody was asking earlier in the day, hey, Kimba, is this a failed auction? You need to nerd out on what a failed auction is. Okay? Just what is for example, on a head and shoulders, do you understand that a head and shoulders is only confirmed once the neckline breaks? When it does that, this becomes valid. Just because you see this doesn't mean that it's a head and shoulders. It's only a head and shoulders after the neckline is broken. It's the same thing with a failed auction. Okay? Did the neckline get broken? You need to, when you identify a level, what do we always say that you do? You need to either decide if you're on a 15-minute, 30-minute, or 1 hour. Okay? So that just looks like a sweep, a bullish retest, if you will. Okay? Some people were looking to take longs there, use that as their stop loss. So don't get stopped out on the single print. Limits all the way like that. Stop loss behind the single print. Some of y'all were looking to get into longs. Okay? So there is no right or wrong. There is no, oh, you should be bullish, you should be bearish. Wait for the edge. Make sure you nerded the fuck out. Some of y'all can make the argument that, hey man, this was the neckline. It finally touched it. This is the first attempt. Some people are going to go, this is the first attempt. I'm going to short here. Some people are going to say this is not a failed auction. It's the beginning of it. It finally touched the neckline. I'm going to short here. Some people are going to do that. Okay? I am still waiting for my plan. I've had my plan to short 67.4, the sweep of the week highs, for the last 72 hours. A little failed auction is not going to do anything to me. In fact, do you know what I said yesterday? I said, I'm going to have to deal with these goddamn 12-year-old kids snorting Adderall and fucking killing me on Warzone. Do not bother me on a bullish retest. I'm not I don't give a shit if it wants to do a bullish retest. So while some people are going to be really, really excited about shorting, some people like me are going to be, waiting to see if we get like, that's a dot long for me if that happens. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make, brother, is there isn't really like a right or wrong. There's only good and bad risk management. There's good and bad planning. But I'm not gonna like chase a failed auction if it hasn't even confirmed. Okay? I'm not gonna change my plan that I've had for weeks, in 2 hours because of a 5-minute, 30-minute failed auction. So I'm gonna do me. You do you. If you're going to say, oh, failed auction, well, a failed auction is when the neckline is lost. So that is not a failed auction. Some people are going to say, this isn't a failed auction because the neckline should be here. Therefore, this is the beginning of the failed auction, and I'm going to short here, stop loss here. Some people are going to say, yo, that's extremely bullish. The bad highs and the weak highs are still there. I'm going to wait for a 3 drive. And I'm going to wait to short here. You need to have your own plan. Okay, but some of y'all are like, hey, did you take the failed auction? That's technically not a failed auction. A failed auction is when you spend time and you lose the neckline. That is the first time you would have been like, that's a failed auction. Oh my goodness. Oh, my mouse is being weird again. There we go. Hold on a second. Kimba, any chance you could look at INJ? How many people are here right now? Do we have less than 200 lions? We have 160 lions. Okay. Yes, I can, because you know why? If you're here, you actually care. Get nasty with it. What was your question? Fuck, what was your question? I just missed it. Dabpool. Kimba, any chance you could look at INJ? I'm long from 2130 and looking to add, thinking 2170 if it gets down that low. Okay. Sure. So I don't know if you were following along with me on this, Dadpool. But Bitcoin can't lose 64 thou. Were you here earlier in the day when people were asking, hey, Kimba, what would be like the lowest level that you would tolerate Bitcoin to go to? What would make you go, oh shit? Were you here for that conversation, Dabpool? So, hey, I don't know about you, but you ever folk with a Nintendo 64? I haven't been here much today. Was at work? Okay, so let this be like a quick little recap for you, Dabpool. Bitcoin cannot lose 64 zone. Okay? Bitcoin cannot lose 64. The conversation was, well, Kimba, so if we, if we spend 30 minutes below 64, or we spend 2 or 3 30-minute candles below 64, that's bearish for you? Somebody was asking that. I said, no. You use time to compensate for lack of edge. If it spends 4 hours below 64,000, but it spends 4 hours building a CVD bull div, then we're Gucci. Okay? preferably, it doesn't spend that much time down there. It doesn't need that much time down there to create a bullish edge. Rather, we can just get a quick structural edge like a swing failure pattern, a trident, a 3 drives, etc., etc. Okay, but that box I drew is for me to understand that I do not want Bitcoin to go any lower than that. And by the way, just before, you know, Dumb and Dumber goes and do this, that doesn't mean you should put blind limits down there. Okay, so I hope nobody's like putting limits at 64 right now. Don't do that. Don't do that, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, so from a confluencing perspective, I wouldn't want Bitcoin to lose 64. Okay? So if I'm going to look at INJ, I'm going to do something very similar. Yeah, so you wouldn't want to lose this. This might be a little bit different because the volume seems a little bit lackluster. So you might be able to get away with something like this, like normal Kimba box, but yeah, you wouldn't want to lose this. Okay. And your complete sentence was, I'm thinking to add at 21.70. You don't want it to go down there. You don't want it to go down there. That's a level where if it gets down there, I might actually short you on the bearish retest. Okay? Or short you at the 0.5. At that point, I would be thinking the level that I needed to be turned into support now might actually be turning into resistance. That would be my concern. Take a look at volume, and have you done this? You know where the imbalances are, correct? We'll let all of it load. But you know where all the you know about all this, yes? The TPO point of control, that. Honestly, bro, you don't want to go and grab it. This is you know what you want? You want this. Leave it alone. Leave the single print alone. That's all I gotta say. You with me? And as always, brother, never let me looking at something for 10 minutes.
Motherfucker, the math is the math.
Override all the hard work that you've put into it, okay? At the end of the day, if you're trading INJ, I'm assuming that you've been looking at this shit for the last couple days, if not last couple weeks. Beru, Degen J, Aussie Player, RPM, Ricky, Green Grandala, Banana Man, Lihu, Rastalan, Verki, Roshafan, Masahiro, Hugh Hunt, James, Audemars Piguet, Apollo, Ricky, Bud Fox, Nam God, Aussie. You guys good? Emmanuel, have a great night, y'all. Chaloob, Wags. I'm not going to go to sleep, but let's do the outro right now.